Number 3, we have the presentation, discussion, and possible action regarding a recommendation to City Council on the Brodie Oaks planned unit development application and whether it is superior with respect to Parkland Dedication. Presenters Thomas Williamson from Parks and Rec.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members. I'm Tom Williamson, Principal Planner with the Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you so much for having me present tonight on the proposed Brodie Oaks planned unit development, also known as a PUD or PUD. The application is a rezoning case, and the case number is C814-2021-0099, and is to grant the site the PUD zoning designation for redevelopment. Tonight we'll evaluate how the proposed PUD application meets superiority over current code as it relates to Parkland Dedication. So just getting into the overview here, the existing Brodie Oaks Shopping Center is located near Loop 360 and Highway 290, just behind the existing Barton Creek Greenbelt. Some of y'all may recall the site as having the former Toys R Us, and it isn't too far from the Barton Creek at 360 trailhead and parking area that's part of the Barton Creek Plaza. The current zoning is a mix of commercial designations, so general commercial services and community commercial. The PUD zoning would allow for a high-density mixed-use activity center with 1,700 residential units, as well as 1.2 million square feet of office and 140,000 square feet of retail restaurant, plus 200 hotel rooms. That's what's proposed as part of the application. To consider this type of zoning category, the development must demonstrate superiority in a number of city review disciplines.
We're going to do it afterwards.
Oh, I'm sorry? No. Everything all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot to ask for public speaking, but we decided to do it after your presentation.
Oh,
so.
oh, my bad.
No, it's my bad. So continue. I'm sorry for the interruption.
All right. So one of those review disciplines that this application is weighed against for superiority is Parkland Dedication, a subject we're all experts on after the last couple of months we've had. And the rest of my presentation will cover how the development proposes to exceed the current Parkland Dedication requirements. So we have an aerial shot of what the site looks like today. The development as it exists originally goes back to 1981, where the original development included the dedication of this section of Barton Creek Greenbelt. I believe it was about 84 acres of parkland between the shopping center and the center line of the creek. As noted, the shopping center features quite a bit of hard surfaces, as you can see from the aerial. It's equal to about 84% of impervious hard surface impervious cover, which drains right into the Barton Creek Greenbelt currently. A big part of the project's appeal is a major reduction in that impervious cover and reducing the drainage into the existing parkland. The development is proposing, yes, it's proposing a reduction in impervious cover to a maximum of 54% of the gross site area. So right now it's at 84%, so going down to 54%. However, the development will still be requesting a separate code amendment to the Save Our Springs ordinance to allow this amount of impervious cover. We do have our watershed department partner, Leslie Lilly, here to speak to that if there are questions about the SOS ordinance. Getting into the actual parks plan, we have a series of interconnected parks that are in the green tone that you see here from the plan that would expand the existing Barton Creek Greenbelt at this location, providing an overlook and trailhead for the Greenbelt, as well as 2 neighborhood parks. Overall, it's about 11.6 gross acres of parkland, all along publicly accessible streets. That's equal to about 31% of the site's gross site area, which is substantial for an infill project of this kind. All the parkland is to be dedicated fee simple, so that means that the city would be owning that parkland going forward. In the center there's the Central Green Pocket Park. This is envisioned as a kind of plaza with which the applicant intends to help program, potentially by offering events. The Trailhead Overlook Park, that's adjacent to the Greenbelt, would be expanding the Greenbelt and complementing it. And then along the eastern edge of the site, there is a 2-acre neighborhood park to be dedicated as part of the second phase of the development. So this project really only has 2 phases. The majority of the parkland that you see, with the exception of the neighborhood park, all of that is proposed to be developed and dedicated as part of the development's very first phase. Overall, for an infill PUD of this size, they are proposing a minimum of 7.6 credited acres of parkland. So that's after reductions for any stormwater infrastructure that may be proposed, as well as other encumbrances. So from that 11.6 gross park acres, you get 7.6 credited after those discounts, and that ultimately equals to 20% of the gross site area. So with these 2 numbers, 31% before credit reductions and 20% after those credit reductions, that is superior to what we would be able to require under current code. Right now, for an infill urban core project like this, we would be capped at 15% of the gross site area. So really, this application is doubling that amount. So given that this development is assessed at the superior 10.4 acres per 1,000 residents as well, there is kind of a remainder that you see at the bottom there, that 76%. This would be satisfied using fee in lieu, and using the fee schedule that was most recently approved by City Council, we're estimating that that remainder would be something equal to about $4 million in fee in lieu, using the 10.4 acres per 1,000. Again, that's superior to what we normally use for a development like this under current code, which is 9.4 acres per 1,000. So that's an extra acre per 1,000 residents. Looking at the park development for the parks that I was just talking about, the applicant has committed an additional $700 per residential and hotel unit over the development fee rate in effect at the time of permitting. So what this would translate to is roughly $2.2 million in park development. That's roughly double what we would have normally required under current code. The exact park designs are still being finalized. That's going to happen at the time of site development. But generally, there is a list of amenities that were included in the application, and the applicant must comply with these list of amenities. They have to provide no less than 3 of the listed amenities that you see on the screen. And they also have to be met with part approval. Other amenities may be considered as well, as long as they're mutually agreed between the applicant and the Parks Department. Finally, when it comes to maintenance, the applicant has committed to maintaining all of the park space, so dedicating them fee simple to city ownership, but ultimately maintaining them themselves, which is a pretty big commitment. So again, that's not something we would normally be able to require, but something that we consider superior, in assessing this development. Just a couple of additional features for your consideration as far as stormwater management. While they are permitted a maximum of 6.4 acres of stormwater management in the parkland, the applicant does believe that they could reduce that to maybe about 4 acres to really just underground ponds that would not affect the surface use of the parkland whatsoever, and very little re-irrigation of any stormwater. And they plan to achieve that through innovative stormwater solutions such as the underground ponds that they've proposed as part of the project. As far as the design of any ponds and re-irrigation, they absolutely must be designed with our park standards, Parkland Dedication operating procedures, which means that they have to have recreational value and they need to be amenitized. 2 fairly substantial commitments that I would like to note are the achievement of the site's silver certification for all the parks, as well as 50 reserved parking spaces for park users. So site certification is a little bit like LEED, but for landscapes. And a lot of the points that you get for this kind of certification are things the applicant's already committed to, like redeveloping degraded sites, protecting ecosystems, reducing water use, and restoring disturbed soils. So this is something that the Parks Department is trying to achieve with all of our parks. So this was something we consider. It's not something we require with Parkland dedication today, but certainly appreciated when assessing a project for superiority. So overall, considering the additional park acreage, the additional park investment, as well as the improvements to drainage and stormwater runoff, plus the parking spaces, which was also a big value add for us as we try to better find parking for the Barton Creek Greenbelt. Generally, staff is recommending this for superiority with respect to Parkland dedication. So ultimately, this concludes the presentation. This was posted as an action item for y'all's discussion this evening. I'm available for questions. We also have the applicants here this evening, Rebecca and Abby from Lionheart, and they've also prepared a presentation that they'd love to share with y'all that goes into more detail. I think has some illustrations as well if you'd like to hear from them.
Okay, you know what I think I'm going to do, since I made the mistake of not calling public communication before this item, I wasn't aware that there was any. So if we can put you on pause for a moment, have public communication, and then we'll come back and see the presentations, if you guys don't mind. That way the public doesn't have to wait to do their presentation.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for understanding. By the way, I don't know what else to do about this, but I got a member, board member Taylor is off, and she's having trouble getting back on. If you can do so, I can't do anything from up here, but Tim, if you might be able to get in touch with her and see how to help. Okay, public communication, do you want to?
The first speaker on this item is Bill Bunch.
Good evening. Thank you all for your service to our community on the Parks Board. I know it's a lot of work and really appreciate it. I'm Bill Bunch, Executive Director with Save Our Springs Alliance. I have been working with a group of other environmental activists engaging with the developers on this project. There's been very healthy communications. They're continuing. They're not done yet. We're all hoping that there'll be agreement at the end of the day. But we're still learning things, and our focus has been on the water quality stuff and the reducing of the impervious cover, which we're very happy about, and then dealing with what level of intensification of density is appropriate here. It's certainly called for in the Austin Tomorrow plan, and SOS supported that, the Imagine Austin plan. We supported that, but there is a question about how much. On the park side, I've been focusing on this issue, as y'all may well know, from the Statesman PUD angle. And I'm very concerned with this basic idea of counting land as public parkland when it's really being used for the private water quality and drainage facilities for the development, any development. And I don't know where this practice started happening, but it's just recently on my radar. And I think we should avoid drifting off into Orwellian newspeak, where we're calling stuff public and parkland when that's not what it is. And we throw around terms like rain garden. And I see where some design of a rain garden could in fact be used as parkland, but others could not be. And if we're going to do that, we need to be really clear about if this use of land, re-irrigation land, for example, is that really appropriate for public parkland? And maybe in some cases it is. But I just think that this is a slippery slope. And with the Statesman PUD, it's a nightmare where we're really calling stuff public when they want to maintain the private control over the parkland. I don't see that here, but I'm not clear about, how the management is that going to stay with y'all and with council and the normal public processes. That hadn't come to the fore here yet. But I am concerned that it's calling for 6.5 acres of the parkland form of water quality control for the public-private land. Would wrap up with one last point. Staff should be starting in their analysis for you from the code, where there's a nice calculation that's built into the ordinance of how much demand is being created. And they're not showing you that starting point calculation. And for this project, it's 30 acres. And that came from this idea that we want essentially 9.4 acres per 1,000 new residents.
Thanks, Mr. Bunch. Can you
So,
wrap up?
yes, thank you. So, I appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Roy Whaley.
Howdy, y'all. My name's Roy Whaley. I am the Conservation Chair for the Austin Regional Group of the Sierra Club, and I was originally on the working group for this, and somehow I got clipped off the list. So I haven't kept up with it as well as I'd like to, but I did talk to Mr. George Kofer over the weekend about the trail. I also talked with Clark Hammond this afternoon, who was also in the working group and the chair of the Save Barton Creek Association. I'm happy about the way the order went. Now I don't have as many questions. They've already been addressed. But I am concerned about what kind of public access we'll have. Bill, Mr. Bunch just addressed the Statesman PUD, and it's very clear they're trying to make that their private park. I'm also not seeing this here. So the access is important, and then the trail access is important. Also hearing that there will be separate parking, and I'm assuming that will be metered, and that's the way I believe it should be. The subterranean water quality ponds, how will they be treated for contaminants, mosquitoes, et cetera? What's the fill and drain schedule for that? How much standing water and for how long? Let's see, that's the big things right there. I'm not used to having 3 minutes. I'm used to the way Mayor Adler runs city council meetings, where you sign up for 4 items and you have 1 minute to speak on all of them. And this is considered public democratic participation. So I wasn't prepared to be able to speak this long, so thank you. I also wasn't prepared for y'all to actually be paying attention, because the council doesn't do that either. They're busy checking their email and playing Sudoku or whatever they're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. But next time you should be more prepared. No, I'm just kidding. So you want to proceed with questions to staff?
I think
Or
we
do
have
you do
another
the applicant
presentation, right? Would you like to do your presentation?
Or are they just going to answer questions?
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Leonard, and I have Abby Gilfillan here with me. We're with Lionheart. We're the land planners and urban designers and landscape architects on the project. We appreciate your time tonight. It's an exciting night for a planner when, after 3.5 years, finally you get to your first board and commission hearing. So we're very excited to present this to you tonight. This is the site I think you're all very familiar with. Just the corner here in the foreground, which is one of the only pervious portions of the site, was formerly TxDOT right-of-way. So before that, it was over 90% impervious cover. So I just wanted to point that out there. And as Tom mentioned, this was all part of the Barton Creek Plaza development in 1981. 40 years have gone by. It's time to, make amendments to that former development that no longer matches with the vision of what the citizens of Austin have described for this piece of land. And so we're excited to finally be here and be able to do that. The property is just the Brodie Oaks Shopping Center. I think Tom also mentioned that the green line here is the 84 acres that were dedicated in 1981 when the original development came through. When we were first starting to do work on this, which by the way is an enormous team, and there are other folks here too, I wish I could share some glory with them as well, but one of the first things our team noticed was all the impervious cover on site and how empty it was, even in the middle of what would be prime shopping time. And so that no longer fits, that's a signal to us that that no longer fits the way people want to do retail in our world anymore, and the way we should be using developed space in our cities. The other thing that struck us was just how much of a disconnect there was from the Greenbelt to the development. I mean, literally a wall built around the backside of the property, sometimes close to 20 feet tall, and just no real way to get down into the Greenbelt in a positive, accessible way for people to enjoy that amenity. As we dove into the planning work that the citizens of Austin had put together over the last 4 decades, we looked at Imagine Austin. It is one of the green dots in Imagine Austin. We think it's the first one to attempt a redevelopment in an environmentally sensitive area. I think this was to recognize areas that were already community activity centers in Austin, but in the wrong place or developed in the wrong format. And this was an attempt at that plan to describe redevelopment, to bring it more in alignment with the current environmental ethos of our city and also all the other needs we have in a diverse, growing city like Austin. We also noted it was along South Lamar Corridor, which is a high-capacity transit corridor and really important to being able to get our workforce in and out of downtown. And it's also now on Project Connect Purple Line. And also on the Violet Crown Trail. So lots of connectivity in and around the site, but our site was not making good on any of it. Some of the original goals of the plan were to create a dynamic, diverse, and inclusive mixed-use destination. This had been a key gathering place for this corner of our city for many, many years, but it had faded out. And this was a way of making this the place where West Austin comes to gather again. Connections. We have multifamily housing that has fencing all around it on one side. We have this 20-foot wall breaking up our site from the Greenbelt. We have major highways and frontage roads. It's TxDOT's roads on both sides. South Lamar is actually TxDOT in this section. So lots of barriers on this site, and we were about trying to break down those barriers and make better connectivity. We also knew from the very beginning we were going to have to meet the highest ecological standards in our city. And so we really worked hard to do that from the get-go. We have not budged on impervious cover since then. We cut hard down to a way that we could get the development in here and get the redevelopment at the same time making a better water quality situation. We also have aspirations of doing our best to address climate change with this development and also to build a healthy and well community here. I'm having trouble with my clicker. No. There we go. So some of the strategies, as I mentioned, we reduced impervious cover by 36%, which was a very big move from the beginning. We've gone on to add more details around affordable housing. We're working with foundation communities to try to help them integrate a project into this development. We anticipate somewhere around 200 units of affordable housing here, over 11 acres of public parkland. We had hoped to have an intentional trailhead here as opposed to the trailheads that have come kind of as afterthoughts around this area, like the one on 360 and the one in Barton Hills neighborhood. And then we also wanted to do our best to transplant these hardy trees that had survived on this site in massive amounts of impervious cover and bring them into more park-like conditions where they could thrive for the rest of their lives. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Abby to kind of handle some details on the parks and open space front.
Thank you. Abby Gilfillan with Lionheart. So this is the existing program here. You can see everything in red there is impervious cover and impervious surfaces. There's just the small amount of open space that's been mentioned that gets you to that 84%. But otherwise, it's fairly developed site. The current access to the Greenbelt is really there are a number of social trails. There are folks living in the Greenbelt back there that's causing erosion and degradation of the Greenbelt. and there is no wildlife habitat. So this is the proposal. This is the proposed project where you have 11.6 acres total of parkland with 7.7 acres credited. The Greenbelt access, we are working with local organizations. You have a letter from Hill Country Conservancy and Austin Parks Foundation, who we've been working with for a while, to really understand how best to go about formalizing a trail connection to the Barton Creek Greenbelt Trail System. This area is within the Balcones Canyonland Preserve, and so the process there would be to go through that permit process with the Balcones Canyonland, which would mean that we would be coming back. It's a whole separate process to build a new trail in that area, and so that process would require us to come back to City Council as well as Fish and Wildlife and Balcones Canyonland Preserve when it comes to permitting that trail. So that is a separate process. Wildlife habitat, 3 acres, is proposed in that area, particularly the area closest to the Greenbelt. Oh. And then park development, it looks like the slides got a little bit messed up, but parkland commitment, Thomas covered this really well. We are about 29 acres is required, 11.6 acres on site. We're making up the difference with that fee in lieu. And you can really see the park program there and development, how we're really connecting the space to the Greenbelt and bringing the Greenbelt up into the development. And when it comes to park development, we are really the project is going to be developing all of these park spaces and maintaining them over time as well as really activated spaces and the central focal point of this development. As Thomas mentioned, the first thing, nearly all the park space, 80% of it will be built with the very first permits that happen on the site. So again, just really that commitment to build this development around this park space. The 50 parking spaces will come at that time as well. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you very much. Did you have anything else, Mr. Rowlandson? Okay, all right, thank you very much for your presentation, for the additional slides. Do we have any comments on the dais? I guess I could start with Board Member Lewis. And again, I see that poor Board Member Taylor's kicked off. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. Board Member Lewis, did you have any comments or questions? You're muted, I believe.
I'm so sorry. I'm having trouble with my, can you hear me?
There, a little
Hello?
bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm having, why don't I try to see if I can fix this and then come back to me? I'm sorry, I'm having internet issues
I hear
over
you very
here.
well
This
right
is a
now.
real rural area.
Okay.
Sorry, so please go ahead, Chair, and, okay.
All right. On the dais, Board Member DiCarlo, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for all the presentations. It's really good to hear all the details of this project. I had a question, a follow-up question to some of the questions that were submitted on our questions and answers report. One asking about whether this application would come under the requirements for the new commercial Parkland dedication. And it was mentioned that, there would only be additional fees if they were applied, and that PARD recommended to exempt this PUD from the requirements for at least a year's time. So I'm just looking for clarification on, is PARD proposing that then those additional fees be collected at that time of a year or more later?
Thank you for the question, Board Member DiCarlo. So this was a pretty difficult question to answer, I'll be honest, because we were working through the commercial parkland dedication ordinance, around the same time that we were reviewing this. So since the commercial parkland dedication requirements didn't exist when staff was reviewing it, it wasn't something that came up as part of the discussions with the applicants. So given that this project's been in review for the applicants have been working on it for 3+ years now, staff discussed it, myself and the Parkland Dedication Program Manager, Rennie Scott, felt that it would be fair, per staff's opinion, to give the applicant time, maybe exempt them for a period depending on how far along in their development cycle they are. So if they're, finish their permitting within a year or 2 years, then they don't necessarily have to fulfill the commercial elements. They're sort of vested to Parkland Dedication as it was reviewed by staff before those commercial requirements came into effect. But we don't really like to vest PUD ordinances for a very long time to a set of code requirements. So it'd be sort of similar to how we've done other PUDs, not to get too in the weeds here, but I was thinking it could say something like, they'd be vested to Parkland Dedication as it existed, this year. And if the applicant did not develop the site within the next couple of years, then those requirements would come into effect. Effectively, it would move the effective date up further into the future, the longer the applicant waited to fulfill the development as it was contemplated. Does that make sense? I realize it's kind of a technical answer.
Yeah. I think so. Thank you for trying though and providing that information. I think that was my only question for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Rinaldi, did you have anything?
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious to know a little bit more about what we heard from the speakers about the planned stormwater infrastructure on the parkland. I don't know how much information we have about it at this point, but I'm really interested just if you could paint us a picture of how can stormwater infrastructure be incorporated into parkland in a way that's also kind of recreational, and are there, what might this proposed stormwater infrastructure look like in these parks?
Absolutely. So with Parkland Dedication, it's not unusual for us to co-locate parkland with stormwater infrastructure. We've done it in a number of other developments. I mean, some examples that come to the top of my head is Goodnight Ranch, where there's a lot of, bioswales, rain gardens. There's also a regional pond that were all designed as recreational amenities. So this is something similar, although I do think that this development is somewhat unique in that the applicant is proposing to actually put the ponds underground, so it would leave the surface completely free for recreation. And they receive greater credit the more stuff you can, use the parkland for. So in this instance, I think in discussions with the applicant, the fact that it would be underground posed, something valuable to us, where it was kind of a win-win, where we could still use the surface for, a suite of recreational amenities and not affect their stormwater infrastructure whatsoever. The re-irrigation, I think, is a little touchier, where, there are actually spray heads that would be running occasionally, very seldom. I think the civil for the applicant could probably talk to that a little better than I. But essentially, it'd be spraying water periodically after major storm events. And basically, we'd have to design the site in such a way that there wouldn't be amenities that would necessarily get negatively impacted. But there are a lot of amenities that we can use with re-irrigation, and those are listed in the amenities list that I had in the presentation. So trails, trail appurtenances, the kind of facilities that wouldn't necessarily be the right fit for re-irrigation are probably things like playscapes, things that require greater maintenance, but those aren't proposed to be co-located with the re-irrigation, and the re-irrigation would really be limited to a maximum of, I think, 2.5 acres. And the applicants, as I mentioned in the presentation, believes that they could actually reduce that to hardly any re-irrigation.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, can you explain a little more what you mean by re-irrigation?
So essentially, it'd be stormwater that would come out of spray heads, similar to irrigation, but it would be stormwater that would have been collected and treated within those underground ponds.
And so then you can use that to irrigate on the site.
That's true, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we've had a couple of references to the density at the site, and I remember the reference to the 200 units of affordable housing from Foundation Communities. Can you refresh my memory on what the total number of units will be?
So the applicant has proposed 1,700 units, so 200 of those would be the affordable units, and those are going to be exempt from the requirements, so they're not going to pay any fee in lieu for those units. And essentially the way that this application set up is, unless it's otherwise specified in the parks and open space exhibits, they're just going to comply with current code. So current code, as it was proposed by council recently, those units would be exempt from paying any additional fees.
Okay. And finally, you referenced this a little bit in the question and answer report that we got. But I'm curious about, with the 76% of the fee in lieu remaining, what are the opportunities to use that in helping to develop amenities like the trailhead, for example? Are those, how much of that is going to be for development versus for acquiring new parkland elsewhere?
So the fees that are collected will comply with how we currently expend our Parkland dedication fees. So right now, any fees collected for fee in lieu, at the time that the applicant files their site development permit, we would collect those fees, and then they'd be held for a minimum of 1 year, where staff would be required to expend them exclusively on any park acquisitions that comply with our location criteria. So we're only able to purchase parkland within a certain area. So that's what we would be prioritizing. That's what we would be dedicating those funds towards. However, if there are no park spaces or parklands that we haven't acquired and we can't find any in the area, then there is the opportunity to use those towards park amenities and park investments and park facilities, but that's usually after 1 year's time. So there's a possibility that we use those fees towards some of the park investments, but really the fees in lieu would be collected with the intent to purchase parkland first and foremost.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the very interesting presentations. I didn't know that this was an Imagine Austin activity center, so that's really exciting. And it seems like, a lot of thought has gone into this, and I'm just looking forward to hearing what my colleagues have to ask about.
Okay, Board Member Flowers?
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple of clarifying questions related to things you've already provided, so hopefully they'll be quick. The first one relates to parking. So parking for the site, I understand the 50 spaces for park access, and I just want to confirm that the plan is that those will be no cost. Is that the idea, or it's undetermined at this time?
That's what we've contemplated. We really wanted to have the 50 reserved parking spaces for park users. PARD has not proposed them at any kind of cost, really to sort of help offset some of the parking demands that we've seen on the Barton Creek Greenbelt. So this was a big ask from us that we were really happy the applicant was able to fulfill. So ultimately, this is, some of the other parking trailheads that we have along the Greenbelt are over capacity right now. So we're trying to include those within this PUD in such a way that it would, make a positive impact on some of those parking demands.
Okay, great. And then just kind of a follow-up question on that, that additional spaces beyond 50 might be available, but for a cost, correct?
It would be part of the larger parking district. The applicant can speak more to the transportation demand management that they've got set up for that, but it's going to be like one big parking district that, whether you're shopping or you live there, you'll be able to park, and that's true for any park users beyond those 50 spaces too. I believe so. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you. So second question, I just want to confirm related to access to the site. I understand the parkland access piece and that there'll be access to the trail and the parking spaces, but in general, for the whole of the site, are there any private roads or private access outside of obviously private apartment homes that people won't be able to enter unless they live there? But otherwise, is it a fully public site, or will there be any areas that someone would not be able to access that were not private homes?
I don't believe so. No, all the parkland is going to be publicly dedicated and city-owned. One clarification, though, is that the roads aren't going to be dedicated right-of-way. I'm not sure if that was something you were picking up on, but they're still going to be roads owned by the development, but they're going to be in public access easements, which means they're going to be fully publicly accessible.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at. So though that they're privately owned roads, there's no plan or intention that they would be closed at any time or, yes, okay, perfect.
No, and the application specifies, too, that like gates or anything like that is forbidden.
Okay, great, thank you. Those are my questions.
Board Member Hugman, did you have any?
Yes. I love the plan, and it's close to my house. I have hiked in that green belt and up that hill, and it is such a different elevation. So it's almost like when you're standing on the property that's being developed, at the edge, you're on a precipice that craters down. And I'm just wondering how we can make, bridge that gap. You almost need a ski lift there, honestly. I mean, it's not a hill most people can hike up. So, and maybe it's more of a trail question. I don't know what they're thinking, but to call that an amenity, to sell it that way, and we want people to use that green belt, we have to come up with a way to make it accessible. It really is like standing on the edge of a cliff.
I can respond to that a little bit. So the parkland that the applicants are going to be dedicating, that's going to be almost entirely flat. There's just a little bit of area that'll have some grading that's over 10% slope, but otherwise, the parks that they're dedicating are all going to be flat, and they'll comply with accessibility standards, Texas ADA. As far as the existing Barton Creek Greenbelt, I agree that it is a challenge. There'll also be an additional kind of access trail along the side road between Loop 360 and the existing parkland. So that's, an additional access route into the Greenbelt down to the other parking center I mentioned. But as far as the parkland that's being proposed for this development, that is going to be all accessible.
Thank you. The 50 parking spaces, that seems like a lot of parking spaces for that small of a park. It's almost like the 50 parking spaces are being thought of as, let's allow people to enter the Greenbelt here. But I've hiked up that little access road, and it's not an easy thing. So I'm having a hard time figuring out how we can make that land more accessible. So maybe stairways. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but.
Well,
Would you guys like to speak to that? I see you nodding your head over there.
I just wanted to mention that we have had numerous conversations with the Hill Country Conservancy and Austin Parks Foundation. They have been out there. We've hiked with them down to the Greenbelt. The plan is that collectively we would come up with a trail alignment that would be the best trail alignment to get people down to the Greenbelt. And that we would have to get the blessing of the Balcones Canyonland to make that happen, and probably also clean up some of the other social trails that are in the area as well. So I hear what you're saying, and having hiked up and down that multiple times, it is a heavy lift, but there are ways to get down there, and they are very excited about having some access in that area.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to Vice Chair. Yes, since this is your district, I'm going to go down to, do you want to go next, Pat? No. To Board Member Bernard, do you have any questions or comments? No? Board Member DePalma?
I love the project, and so that's, I'm about a little over a mile away from my office, and then when I think about Ben White, then going over to 290 and 71, all the way to District 8, when we see this, just so much impervious cover, You know, the right intention we had with the SOS redevelopment ordinance back in the day, but we've had very few cases that I think it's actually helped. And I think the more expensive land gets in Hayes County and of course in Travis County, the more difficult that's going to be able to do. So anything we can break down where we don't have 80+% worth impervious cover and going all the way to Oak Hill, where you're at in some cases, I think 98% impervious cover. I mean, this is a roadmap for me. I love the site, and I'm just thrilled about it. I'm happy to hear that APF and Hill Country Conservancy, we did receive their letter and that they're a part of it. So I had similar concerns as my board colleague had regarding how do you access as a trail point. As far as the 50, I didn't know how to frame the 50 parking spots. And then I looked and counted Dick Nichols Park, and I think that's like 132 parking spots. And so I was like, okay, this is much less than that. I don't know if I feel one way or the other, if that's a good bad thing or a bad thing. But ultimately, I think the green space is going to be phenomenal. And I'm really looking for, I think this could be a dynamic project. And I love the fact that we had other speakers talk about this is not the Statesman. And they kept saying, this is not the Statesman, this is not the Statesman. And I love that framing of it because this is not the Statesman. We're seeing this real active green space. We're seeing that mixed use. We're seeing open areas. We have 3 parks. There is there's the, gosh, what show is it? There's that, I just cited it real quick, but there's that property that is right next to this project, that retreat at Barton Creek, and all of a sudden now they get a park, and it's kind of apropos that Sprouts now becomes a park. So underneath this plan. So I'm enthusiastic about voting for it, and I appreciate all the hard work that went into it. I guess the one question I do have for y'all is what sort of security, because those cliffs, I mean, it's a 100-foot drop ultimately, I think in elevation, going from 700 to 600, looking at the topography maps, what sort of safety components are we going to put in there so when we have that active and passive recreation space at the top, that nobody goes flying off, whether it's on a bicycle or anything else? I know it's a little question compared to the big ones out there.
Couple thoughts from our group. One, that 20-foot wall, give or take, around it, we are taking that down and we're grading up into the site, kind of more like it would have originally been graded, like the natural grades would have been there. So that's one helpful thing to get people down into the green belt. That will also provide more visibility down into the green belt from streets, publicly accessible streets and publicly accessible parks, which I think will help with some of the security challenges in that area. And I also think that by having the hopeful trails connection someday through there, one trail connection versus multiple social trails that are out there now, that we can sign them, we'll have more people using them on a regular basis so that they don't become, littered and things along those lines. So I think there's some real helpfulness that we can have. In addition, I wanted to point out that we're also working with PARD to, and are willing to take on ongoing maintenance and operations of the park space on site. And we're working through how that blends into the greenbelt down below, like what our responsibilities could be down there as well. We have a real interest in making sure that that's a safe and clean place as well. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Board
it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Moore? Nothing? Okay. I have a question. Do you want to go last or do you? I did, and she said no. Do you want me to go? I've got a, so I had a question about because I just wonder in the land of karst, how these underground ponds work and how that is going to not drain into and cause more erosion into the canyon lands.
Hello, Leslie Lilly with Watershed Protection. With regard to the excavation of the underground SOS ponds that are planned and all of the excavation for the building structures, there is a 3D model that was developed by Nico Howard from BCP. He works for Austin Water. And that 3D model is used as a basis for understanding how to protect the karst features that are below the proposed development. And in that model, you can see that there are several layers of clay soil types. And a part of the PUD, and one of the notes is that in the development and in the excavation of those ponds and of the structural supports for the buildings, that there will be a constant checking that there is not a penetration of those clay layers that would then impact the karst cave that is below the whole feature, which is approximately 140 feet below the structure. So that cool 3D model is available as a part of the PUD exhibits. So that's how we're being very careful and considering the impact to that karst feature.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question, because if I go home and don't ask this, my bicyclist husband is going to ask. So accessibility, I'm going to go back to the thing that they brought up, which is the accessibility of this. So the parking spaces will be there so people can come. What is the bicycle accessibility of this? Can they come up that trail that's, I'm assuming that you're hoping to take some of the pressure off of that, I don't know what to call it, that goes down to the Sculpture Falls, that trail that's always just, people are parked on the side of the road. I'm thinking that you might get some of that traffic. Is that what you're thinking too?
Yeah, so there are a lot of bicycle facilities planned throughout, including all the streets, the internal streets to the developments, and bicycle parking is also one of the amenities contemplated in the amenities list that was brought forward for the presentation. So, and also I think y'all are proposing some improvements to South Lamar too, that includes some pretty hefty improvements to the conditions too, if you'd like to speak to it, Rebecca.
I'm just going to repeat a few things he said, but so South Lamar is part of one of the corridor that the city is working on with the corridor program office. Their improvements stop north of our site, and we are taking it all the way to 360. So there will be a shared use path there, and there will be sidewalk facilities and a bus stop, a new transit stop right adjacent to our site. In addition, from the trailhead that's currently down in the office area, there will be a brand-new shared use path brought up to the site, and this will be on the TxDOT side of the road so that we aren't we can't fit it quite in the easement that's there. It's only 40 feet wide. And we don't want to go into the Bacones Canyon land with any, we won't be able to get any more impervious cover in there. So we will have a shared use path in the TxDOT right of way. And then there is a shared use path that connects that one all the way through our site to South Lamar. There's two of them actually. There's a shared use path on the backside of the development next to the green space, and then there's also cycle tracks on both sides of the main internal circulator route.
And
So
I
lots
assume-
of bike facilities.
Thank you, and I
Yep.
assume signage too for people to figure out how to get
Yes.
places.
Mhm.
Okay, great, thank you very much. I think that's all I have. So board member, Vice Chair Faust, please.
Thanks. I've got a couple sort of clarifying questions, a couple comments and questions for the applicant. I did want to just show and tell something really quick. Tim, do you have that presentation that I sent earlier today? Can you pull that up? Because we were just talking about the karst. And so this is something that was a report that was done by the city of Austin. And this is really just an opportunity for everybody to see how cool the cave and the karst that lie, that are part of our park system. The opening of the Airman's Cave is in the Barton Creek Greenbelt. And it then reaches up underneath this development and underneath some of the highway intersections that have been mentioned. So if you just go to the next slide. So this report was done by Nico Howard, previously mentioned. He's one of our karst experts with the city of Austin. And I just wanted to show y'all this. This was attached to the Brodie Oaks PUD application. It wasn't in our presentation materials. But so that's the entrance to the cave. That's somebody in 1971. They were, I guess, cleaning it out. There's somebody squeezing through. Next slide. That shows you the map. Up at the top, it shows you the entrance to the cave is right there along the creek. It comes all the way up underneath the apartments, underneath the shopping center, and all the way underneath this highway system. And that's just amazing. Can you go to the next slide? This is Airman's Cave. This is some of the features inside the cave. Next slide. And this is kind of showing you underneath the underpass, like what the underworld looks like down there. Next slide. Just another view of what's going on underneath. Next. This slide, and then the next one, they're showing you down in the greenbelt some of the groundwater that emerges, some spring flow. And so go to the next slide. This lady's sitting next to a spring that emerges that's associated with that cave formation. And then groundwater flowing through the entrance is the bottom. So, in fact, in all of the application comments, as was mentioned, Nico worked with the applicant and they developed measures to do the excavation and limiting the depths, but I just thought like this was too cool not for everybody to see. And think about next time you're driving like underneath 290 and 360 in that one lane that gets you all the way to South Mopac or whatever, like think about what's underneath. So thank you for letting me do that. So clarifying questions, Tom, I am a little bit confused about the actual credit and the amount of acreage in the dedicated parkland that will have the stormwater facilities as previously discussed. So it's 11.6 acres gross dedicated parkland.
That's right.
Okay, and then you say 7.6 acres credited, and then 6.5 acres will have re-irrigation or underground ponds.
Yeah, so that
So just-
6.5 would receive, 50% credits, up to 50% credits. And the possibility for, depending on how many amenities that could be provided on the surface, potentially more than 50%. But really, that 6.5 gross acres of stormwater infrastructure, that's like a maximum that they can go up to. So that would receive a 50% credit, so long as it was designed in a way that allowed amenities.
By a 50% credit, you mean then you get 3.25 acres credit and you have to provide another 3.25 acres?
Yeah, there is an exhibit, the open space exhibits that maybe we could pull
And-
up if that'd be helpful.
Also just, because you said that would be a maximum, and that's exactly how I think about it. What we're voting on is the maximum that they can do, so you have to be prepared that that is the situation. That's why I'm trying to understand it.
I'm sorry, I just thought this would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, if you could scroll to the open space and parks exhibit, because it breaks down the table quite well. Continue. Next slide. Oh, yes, this is the one. So if you could zoom in on that Parkland credit calculation table.
Can you see it from here?
I don't think it's changed radically from the slightly updated exhibits that I sent. But so this breaks it all out from, you see like the total acres is the 11.6, then you have what's unencumbered, then the water quality systems and easements, and there's a note at the bottom that sort of explains that maximum that I was talking about. So the applicants stated that, this is the most that they would ever require. They cannot exceed that, but there is a good possibility that they would actually require quite a bit less, depending on their stormwater modeling and reductions based on additional stormwater infrastructure to basically reduce the re-irrigation by, I believe, 2.5 acres. So that's how the crediting's proposed here, and then there's also the areas that are slopes over 10%. There's no floodplain critical water quality, and then the far two right columns are the total encumbered, and then the minimum credited acres that they need to achieve as part of this development.
So total encumbered is 8.1. What's the difference in total encumbered and credited acres?
So the total encumbered is, let me see here. I think that's the total encumbered before the credit and then after the credit.
So is it fair to say that there's 4 acres that doesn't have any sort of encumbrance?
Yeah, so I think that the total proposed unencumbered here, minimum total encumbered that they need to achieve here as proposed is 3.5 acres.
Okay, what's the total, how many acres is the whole site?
The whole site is, the entire site, I believe, is 37 acres, the entire gross site area. And then the total acres of parkland gross without any credit is 11.6 acres.
Yeah. So I just think, it's really important that we be able to determine how much land is actual parkland that's not serving any other purpose, especially since we don't know exactly what the water quality features are going to be at this time. As was mentioned, some can be amenity style and others aren't. So it's just something to consider. I think I have to think about how I feel about it now that I know the actual number of free and clear, straight up park acres. So that reminds me, yes. Quickly, please.
Okay, I think one of the confusing parts for our team has been that we are trying to address the water forward plan and doing a whole lot of water capture and reuse on site, which is new. And so in terms of the rainwater calculations and everything for the purposes of SOS and storage ponds and irrigation, that's created new things to think about and to go over with staff. And I know their technical staff is really working hard on that. So there's a possibility that there, besides the steep slopes, there really won't be any encumbered land on here, and that is 0.7 acres. So it might be that we have 0.7 acres of encumbered land because the stormwater ponds would be underground in these storage vaults, and we may not need any re-irrigation space at the end of the day. But that's still being worked out in detail on the technical side. So I just wanted to point that out. These are all maximum showing the worst case scenario. If we have to have more re-irrigation on site because we're not using, the water up for the water forward plan, that we may need 2.5 acres of re-irrigation in addition to the 3 acres, so.
Okay, thanks. So what I was going to say is just an overall comment I wanted to make is that it is a little bit strange to me. I've been on the Parks Board for I don't know, almost 2 years. Feels like a little longer. But this is the process we have for approving a major new trailhead to the Barton Creek Greenbelt. And this isn't against the applicants at all. What I'm just saying is we go through these really elaborate vision plans and community engagement and all kinds of things on locating really minor park facilities. And so it's just kind of surprising to me that this comes up as a zoning case and that there's no, kind of larger vision process for the Barton Creek Greenbelt and really those community engagement meetings we have where everybody, we do small group and then open forums and just some of the stuff that we've come in here. I think you brought up the example, the Williamson Creek Greenway had this, intensive community engagement process, the visioning process for that. And even when we voted on it, they said, oh no, everything else will have another set of approvals and public meetings. And so process-wise, it's odd to me that this is how this comes up and this is kind of the only process for it. And it was mentioned that, yes, they'll be subject to, Fish and Wildlife Service and permitting through the BCCP, but that's different. That's not what I'm talking about in terms of just community engagement and vision for the Barton Creek Greenbelt. So that was just a note I had that I think there's something missing in our overall processes because this just comes up as a zoning case.
Would you be more comfortable if that is something we asked to be written into the PUD, the community engagement piece? And is that something that's possible to do?
Maybe, let me think about it. You know, I mean, I think that they're following the processes we currently have laid out, and we can certainly, yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should ask for some engagement, but I just think, and I was trying to think of other contexts where, you know, someone could buy land adjacent to the greenbelt and then be like, and I'm putting a trail in, and it's gonna be great, and, I mean, this is in the context of this larger development, people seem to be interested in the idea, but what, you know, what's next and where does it start and stop, I think. How do we get the other entrances that we have? How do we decide where they should be? How should we decide where they should be? And it's come up tonight that this is quite a steep, you know, there might be issues if this is an appropriate entry. I want to go ahead and move on to a couple other points, so let's kind of.
Can I follow up really
pin in it.
quickly
Yeah.
on, I think that was a really good point that you made about the, you know, how do we decide where we put new entrances to these major parks? And I think this is a kind of a special case where, you know, the Imagine Austin plan set the precedent for, you know, presumably when we passed the Imagine Austin plan, we chose to put an activity center here, which is, you know, what we envision as big population centers. And so, you know, we did that knowing that it was right next to the Barton Creek Greenbelt. So I think that, you know, certainly not every single Imagine Austin activity center is near to a major park like this, but I do think that that may be where this, you know, this idea is coming from, that it's, I think it would be kind of weird to have an activity center there and then say, well, we're gonna seal it off from this big, huge, this 83-acre park
I
that's
get what
right
you're
here.
saying. I think I agree about as far as the use from the street, but we do have vision plans for, I just gave an example of the Williamson Creek Greenway, which is all about using a natural area, and we do have them for a lot of other areas, and there's no reference to one for here. The only thing I know of is the Violet Crown Trail. You know, they did some planning, but they really didn't look at this segment because it was really looking more at the extension segments. I was going to mention, and you
We
know,
do have it in the long-range plan, though.
what, if Imagine Austin?
No, our
Okay,
parks
well,
long-range plan, we have exactly
You
what
have
you're asking
an
for.
additional access.
Yeah, and it shows it in that area, and it even says, under Barton Creek, improve access points, signage wayfinding for Central, then it highlights parks with recommended improvements, and it shows what
Well,
looks like that parcel right off South Lamar.
excellent. I wish staff had known that when I'd asked them earlier, because that's really helpful to know. And that's not a knock to staff. It's like, I wish they did, because then I wouldn't have had to ask the question and come up with it. Because it should be,
The plan's online, too.
well, thank you for
Yeah.
pointing that out. I appreciate it. I did also want to ask, we have a contract out right now for this natural areas land management plan. And I was wanting to ask staff if that contract can, you know, be looking at this new access also, because that was supposed to look at all of the impacts and how we're managing lands. And this seems like it'd be a significant change that should be, you know, just to make sure it's all within what we're paying under that proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. As we look toward the actual creation of this, the trail that the applicants had mentioned, that we're working with the Hill Country Conservancy, Austin Parks Foundation, we'd absolutely love to have that included as part of that planning process.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. And again, Rich, thanks for pointing that out. It's unfortunate, like, nobody I've talked to has been able to cite me to that, so. So, another point I wanted to talk about, we've talked a lot about I want to talk a little bit more about the greenbelt and the impacts. I think it's interesting because what I heard from some other people is like questions about, are people going to be able to use this? And my concern is really about the increased use. I mean, we're talking about 1,700 residential units, and this is already like a very overused, the 360 access, which is right below the hill, is a very overused area. It's also one of the areas where we see just rampant off-leash dog use. I mean, went there on Sunday to walk around the shopping center and make sure I'm familiar with the area, take a walk down the access, and, you know, we didn't see a dog on a leash. We saw a lot of dogs roaming free, and in fact, there was like one really terrifying incident. I'm sorry, but this dog like snapped right up on my 5-year-old's face, and I had to, get back and yell. And it's like, welcome to the Greenbelt, kids, it's nature, and we were fine and we proceeded, but it's like not a great way to start a hike with little kids, but that's just how it is down there. The dogs run ahead of the owner and they're protecting the owner because they're dogs. And my kids had stepped aside to let the people pass, and the dog still just jumped right up on the little kid. So what I'm thinking about here is, 1,700 units, those people that are currently have their off-leash dog at the Greenbelt, they put their dog in a car, they drove there, they really want to be there. Other people now are going to be just walking straight out the park. So you guys are really good at design and, affecting how people use a space with design. And so I just really want to encourage you as much as possible to think about sustainable use of this area, how we can mitigate impacts from what we expect to be a dramatic increase in use from not only the residents, but the public that can use the access. And I also, really would encourage you to think about creative ways. It would be wonderful if there's some sort of foundation or conservancy that some of the money created, the revenue created from the commercial services in the development could somehow fund something to help pay for additional maintenance. I know you guys are doing the maintenance in the parks on your property, but as you're providing an access for more and more people to enter our public parkland that we do not have adequate funds to maintain, let's think creatively about how we can really do a public service that's not just the access, but also taking care of the impacts from the access, because it's a real problem around here. And like I said, the kind of just with whatever you can do with design, and it's not just a sign that says put your dog on a leash. It's something else, take your leashed dog through this entrance. That's very specific. Okay, so I want to switch for a second to the neighborhood park. That's a big interest for me because District 5, as you know, this is a parks deficient area. And I'm really interested in a park with a playground in this area, which there's really it's not ideal to what we're looking for. And although there's the larger Zilker Park, that can be quite hard to access. So one of the things I had asked a question about a restroom that was not an amenity listed as the neighborhood park, and I got back a response that can be an amenity for the neighborhood park, so I'm going to put that into my recommendation to make sure we can do that. And then my other question was about car parking at the neighborhood park. It seems like the parking's all going to be in Phase 1 near the Trailhead Park, which I get because that provides access to the Greenbelt, but if you were trying to come to the neighborhood park side, and it sounds like that's not going to get developed till later, but still, would there be any free parking close to that park so that you can use that if you're coming from another neighborhood in a car?
Vice Chair, is that a question for staff or for the applicant? I can try my best to answer.
Well, what I've seen so far is that there's 50 spaces and they're going to be in Phase 1 near the trailhead, and that it was said they're for the Barton Creek access. So I guess it's a question for both. How do we feel about putting in a recommendation that some of those spaces be for the neighborhood park?
And just to look at the phasing again, so the 50 spaces would be, in Phase 1 would be sort of the temporary surface parking, and then eventually with the future phases, once the whole project's been built out, I believe the intention is that those 50 spaces would ultimately be included in the structured parking in the overall development. But the exact location of that hasn't been confirmed until, that site development planning has actually been done. I'd really defer to the applicants on how they felt about the recommendation of the location of those spaces.
Okay, yeah, and and maybe you can also talk about, it's a little confusing to me how it's 50 spaces throughout the development, how those are really the park spaces, how people know that, and you may not know enough detail, but maybe you can explain it. And would there be a way to put some close to the neighborhood park?
We have a shared parking program. So every other use in this development will share parking, which is the new practice in Austin. That's kind of the way the city is moving forward. And We have Bob Akhtarani here, who's our transportation planner. You want to come on up? Yeah. And this 50 parking spaces was a request of PARD. And, but all the spaces in the development, according to our shared use plan, will be available for people who want to come. And do you want to shed some more light on that?
Yeah, so Bob Akhtarani, Bow Consulting, the traffic consultants for the project. So the 50 spaces, as was mentioned over and over again, we're not there yet to understand where exactly they're going to be, right? We have a phased project where we're trying to deliver the park's amenities as quickly as we can to be able to let that get in, and then we start developing the rest of the project. So there's fields that will accommodate parking for phase one and whatever remaining phases or whatever remaining buildings that are there before they get redeveloped. As we move forward, we can work with ATD and parks to figure out how we can split the two, maybe some on the neighborhood side, maybe some on the Greenbelt side, but ultimately we're beholden to the travel demand management plan that the Austin Transportation Department requires us to do. And so that is a shared mix of parking for the entire development across all the uses. And so we were able to convince ATD that, hey, let us carve out the 50, because I don't know if you know this or not, but ATD and the city as a whole has a goal to reduce parking in our city significantly. And so to add 50 parking spaces kind of goes counter to that thought process, but we saw the need for that to be able to get people to our parks. So again, to be able to define where those exact spaces are going to be, we can't do that today, but we hear the concern and we will absolutely work with staff to figure out how we can get free parking spaces towards the neighborhood park sooner than later.
So if there was a recommendation that was saying, not requiring, but saying staff and the applicant, and we'll work with ATD to attempt to have free parking located near the neighborhood park. So let me ask you a question. I'm thinking about like Mueller, right? There's like that one little lot that's next to and if you're lucky and you get a spot there, you can go to the park directly. And if not, you pull out and you park in the meters on the side, or maybe you have to go in a garage and that's associated with the developments. When you say shared parking, is that shared parking or that's a different model?
No, yeah. So for example, on Saturday or Sunday, those office buildings that are around that park area are not in use. So those parking spaces are available to park. So that's a shared parking model. So there's synergy between residential and office commercial developments to where during the day when the office complexes are full, obviously there's less parking available for other uses. Whereas in the evenings or in the weekends where you have high park use, those office complexes are empty and those people aren't parked there, so that those parking spaces become available. Now, to be clear, we've reserved 50 spaces to be free.
Yeah,
Again, we're trying to balance the goals of all the different city departments, and the transportation department's goals are to reduce trips on the road. And by providing free parking, that goes completely against that goal. And so we're balancing parks and transportation, and we're trying to reduce the impact on our roads, but at the same time promote accessibility to our parks.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal, and I think the improved bike access on the MAR and the bus, it's all going to help. I just think in order to make sure it's an amenity that people that are required to use a car can take advantage of, that are in this neighborhood and want to access. The kids part, the playground, that space.
I also just wanted to add, this entire development is within a quarter-mile walk of everything, so this is within acceptable walking distances, for parking and parks and amenities and all of that. And that from the neighborhood park, you're 1 block away from the transit stop on our second best line in the city of Austin, so from accessibility standpoint, if people need low-cost transportation to the neighborhood park, there are other options there as well.
I totally get it, but it's like, I can't, my 83-year-old, stepfather wants to go to the park, and we're gonna probably use the car to get him there. They take the special transit service a lot of the time, but if we're all gonna be, all the kids, everyone's going, that's what we're gonna use.
I believe your recommendation is more than appropriate to direct staff to work all together so we can figure that out.
If it's all right with everyone else, I just want to throw something in there because I think it would be helpful to make it more usable to the surrounding neighborhood.
Anything else?
No, I'm looking at my notes. Okay. Yeah, no, I think
Okay, so
But I have to change it a little bit based on that.
while she's typing, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who came and gave the presentation and answered lots of questions. People who came and talked for public comment.
So I'm going to try to make a recommendation, but it's based on some of the responses we just heard, so I have to revise it. And I also wanted to mention, just because it is in the material, Roy, you asked about when they have to drain the underground tanks and all of that, and there was actually some calculations in that backup. They're still working on it, but the watershed protection people were working with them on how that all happens. So we said, okay, I'm gonna read this recommendation and see what you guys think. Okay, I guess maybe I'll just make the motion and see if I get a second. I move that the Parks Board recommend the Brodie Oaks PUD as superior if the applicant agrees to, 1, work with staff and Austin Transportation Department to provide 10 free parking spaces to the neighborhood park site. 2, amend the application to state there will be a publicly available restroom at the neighborhood park. 3, continue to work with Hill Country Conservancy and Austin Parks Foundation to ensure this is a sustainable trail accessing the Barton Creek Greenbelt. And 4, investigate and report back on methods to fund Greenbelt preservation and management through commercial development at the site.
There's one question on the last point.
Yeah.
Who would be doing the investigation and reporting? Would that be the applicant?
Yeah, when I was asking them, can they look at something creative that could be done to work with a nonprofit and support, management of to fund off-site Barton Creek Greenbelt. Because I think there's probably a really cool model that could become that could come from this. There's going to be a lot of nice retail there, and probably everyone there would like to figure out some way to help manage the Greenbelt and keep it supporting all of the uses it needs to.
Okay, so
Is there a
moved.
second? I have to say, is there a second?
Is there a second? Got, Board Member Bernard would like to second. Any further discussion, or shall we just take the vote? Okay. Yes.
Could I get a response as far as who's going to be adding the bathroom and the potential cost of that?
They agreed to it earlier today, correct?
Okay, great.
Okay, we'll call the vote then. All in favor of this motion as stands? Oh. Pause.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's a lot of issues, as you know. Sorry. We have a motion and a second. We can continue to discuss. This whole deal about the commercial Parkland dedication fees, it was brought up in the very beginning, and I'm sorry, I need to come back to it. It's in my motion. So in the application, there's this whole list, like when you pass a PUD, and it's like, here's the code that applies, and then here's we rewrite it, and here's what's going to apply. So, from staff, I wasn't understanding. It feels like whatever's in that revised code is what applies. And the fees the new commercial fees were adopted in September 2022.
So the new fees.
And so are they grandfathered from those or not? I didn't get.
So the fees for the residential components, they're coming into effect in October 2022 for any new site plan application, subdivision application that's filed after October 2022. So the fee rate that's being proposed, let's say if an applicant
Can I ask a question about what you just said? You said subdivision or site plan application, right?
Yes.
So this is a PUD zoning application. Is that either of those?
So this is a rezoning case to.
Yeah.
So it's not a it's to change their zoning. So really.
So they
like
still
the-
need to file a site development permit?
That's correct.
Okay, and then whatever is in effect at that time will apply, or it had to be part of the PUD zoning?
So unless it's specified otherwise in the PUD ordinance, then yes, it would be whatever is in effect at the time. So if it's not specified otherwise, they would be subject to current code.
Okay, is it specified otherwise in this application?
Not currently, no.
So whatever's been adopted will apply when they file their site development permits?
Yes.
Except for you guys were thinking about maybe giving some kind of waiver.
Staff suggests that because the review has been ongoing for 2 years for this rezoning case, that it would be, we feel fair to not have the commercial development apply to this project, given that we assessed them under just the residential requirements.
Okay. I feel like this is exactly the kind of project we adopted that for, because it's like, got office, it's right on the greenbelt, workers can use it. I mean, it feels like the model for that ordinance, really. So I would like it to apply. Does anybody have a comment on whether or not those commercial fees should apply? Nobody cares?
I know I care about it, but I don't know as far as when it goes into effect, what, January 1? And as far as when the site plans, are we taking things out of, out of the process? I mean, are we creating a new rule outside of the rule that's been established for January 1?
I think what he's saying is the rules should apply unless there's some kind of waiver recommended by staff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go with staff's recommendations.
All right, we'll leave it out of the recommendation then.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, which was, I think I don't need a repeat, right? All right, all in favor, it looks unanimous, and I believe that we have lost the online members from the dais, so, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you for all your time and answers.